welcome to another segment of USA Wrestling's Moments Off the Mat. I am Michael Willis. I am joined by University of Michigan head coach Sean Bormet, Michigan State associate head coach Chris Williams, and Stanford assistant coach and head of the California RTC, Nate Engel. How's everybody doing today?
Doing great.
Good.
Great. 60 degrees in Michigan.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So we are specifically talking today a little bit about Greco-Roman. All three of your college programs have seen a lot of success in Greco, and there's been some really good things coming out of your programs. So before we jump into it, what is all your personal experience with Greco? And I think we're going to start with Sean on this one.
Well, I mean, a lot more of my experience has been in freestyle as an athlete. I'm undefeated in Greco. I'm 1-0. I had a match when I was a sophomore in high school. So competitively, I've always, freestyle has kind of been where I excelled and spent all my time. But, after I finished competing, when I opened my club, before I was back in Michigan, we did a lot. I've always done a lot with the international styles, a lot of freestyle. And then we started getting a lot of wrestlers with interest in Greco. Started doing some stuff with Jacob Kirby in the summers, where he would come in and do a lot with the Greco. We had Ed Geezy on our staff back then at Overtime, and he was actually really, really good in both freestyle and Greco. So we started attracting a lot of the kids that were doing both styles. And, and there's just, even when I was competing as an athlete, there were a lot of times I would spend time over with the Greco guys doing hand fighting and working on parterre. So I always saw the benefits of doing both and spending time, working on specific skills for both. So, when I got to Michigan, we had Adam Kuhn. Obviously, he was doing both styles. We've had other recruits, coming through doing both styles. So, I didn't want to limit myself as a coach, so I've paid close attention and tried to pick up and hone my skills, the Greco specific also. But more of my, most of my experience is all through coaching, very, very little through competing as an athlete.
All right, Chris, how about you?
So when I first began wrestling back in the late 80s, early 90s, as 11-year-old boy in our state, that's all that was really offered at that time was freestyle and Greco. So that's kind of how I got into wrestling. I don't even think I wrestled a folk style match until I was 14 years old. So I grew up, wrestling freestyle and Greco as a young kid. And then probably the biggest influence is Dan Kuhn, which is Adam Kuhn's father, was my high school coach. So we wrestled both styles all through, high school, so I wrestled a lot of Greco as, high schooler. And then once I got to college, I continued to wrestle Greco in the off season, freestyle and Greco, but, I had more success in Greco. I made it was a FILA junior world team back then. And then I continued to wrestle a little bit at the senior level. And then as a coach, we just, Tom Minkle, who was the head coach at Michigan State for 25 years, who retired back in 2016, he had made a Greco Olympic team, and then he had coached the Greco Olympic team. I think he coached the Greco Olympic team in 1992. So he was always very supportive of Greco-Roman. And yeah, that's my background on it.
All right, and over to you.
For me, I wrestled Greco a little bit in high school just because, it was cheap. You could pay like $5 to wrestle each style. And then in 2005, when I was a junior in college, I met Coach Mayab when I was at Missouri Valley. I did a camp with him, and he invited me to do the camp, and I fell in love with Greco. And then the rest was history. Went up to Northern Michigan for 2 years, and then joined the Army and wrestled WCAP, and then just really enjoyed coaching it, in the off season. But yeah, I think with Coach Mayab, he is the sole reason why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, Gary Mayab is a phenomenal guy, and the sport's very lucky to have him. USA Wrestling is very lucky to have him doing everything he's doing. So with you being college coaches, obviously the primary focus is folk style, and I think a lot of people see the translation between freestyle and folk style, they're pretty comparable. what about Greco-Roman? What do you guys think that Greco-Roman can bring to a folk style wrestler? And whoever wants to jump in and answer that one can go ahead.
I personally think, Greco helps, guys in folk style better with their hand fighting. So, obviously in Greco, it's, on your feet, it's pretty much all upper body, and it teaches guys how to dig underhooks. It teaches guys how to get out of underhooks, get to 2-on-1s, able to snap guys down. So I think it does a lot for, helping guys with their hand fighting skills. And then, if anybody that's ever wrestled Greco knows that it's a fight. You're getting punched in the face, and you're getting, headbutted, and, guys that have grown up wrestling Greco, I feel like they have a little bit more of a toughness about them once they, get into college, because they're used to getting, snapped or, hit in the face. And it's just in folk style is a grind. Folk style is a grind, and it's a fight, and you got to be able to stay in there and fight through it. And that's why what I think helps a lot of, what Greco helps a lot of guys that do folk style. It helps them in the fight.
Yeah, I think what Chris said, all that is exactly the truth. And I think too, wrestling's wrestling, no matter what style it is, and it's good to change things up. Whether you're wrestling, whether our guys wrestle Greco in competitions out of season or not, we still practice it and make them wrestle it. I think Shane Griffith's about the only person that fights us on that. But I think that it makes you become a better wrestler. It changes it up. You don't get so set in your ways of folk style or freestyle, and just teaches you different ways to wrestle.
So I guess we'll go to Sean first with this one, but can you speak to the emphasis your program puts on Greco? And, obviously having Adam Kuhn there is a big thing for that.
Yeah, I think, historically as a program, we've had, some really good Greco results in the United States, starting with Steve Frazier, being an Olympic champion, Joe Warren being a world champion, Adam Kuhn, world silver. When I came to Michigan, Steve Frazier was still in the area, and he was still on the mat. And some of my most grueling workouts were in the practice room, hand fighting and having to wrestle with Steve Frazier. Obviously he was quite a bit heavier than me at the time. But I learned a lot quickly about, positioning, about just, creating pressure, so, from a hand fighting standpoint, I think there's a lot of valuable crossover. We do quite a bit of hand fighting, just to break down opponents' positions, force bad shots, control the center of the mat. And with Adam Kuhn, when he came in as a freshman, I think early on, the guys on our team could see some of the advantages he had, because he was so good, in a chest-to-chest position and body lock position, and, how guys had a hard time really staying on the mat with him, and as they tried to stay on the mat with him, he was able to, use leverage and throw these guys, or transition into a takedown, by guys just making mistakes, so creating pressure. So we do a lot of that, and we've done a lot of that as a program, and then just tying it into the balance of, learning how to create angles off that pressure and get the leg attacks, because we have guys, all different styles, guys that like to wrestle from space, guys that want to wrestle in close, but you really, to be great at this sport, you don't want to have any weaknesses. So we use all of it and encompass, all the traditional folk style components, but a lot of hand fighting and a lot of, underhook and 2-on-1 positions also. So there's a lot of Greco components that we mix in with our training.
Excellent. Chris, how about Michigan State?
Yeah, and it's a little bit on, what Coach Bormet just said. Most of the kids that are wrestling in Division I college these days have had some Greco or freestyle experience coming up. So they're already, somewhat used to that. So what we're doing at Michigan State, obviously, is what Coach Bormet just said. We're doing things in the room in folk style season that, might be more Greco oriented, like as far as hand fighting and, controlling the center of the mat and those types of things. And we believe that you got to be strong in all positions, whether you're a guy that wants to wrestle from open, you can't get pushed out of bounds anymore. You can't get, you got to be able to stay on the mat. So we're doing drills that, in the past we might have only used in our, our freestyle Greco club that now we're using in folk style, because it is super important to control the center of the mat now in folk style. And obviously Greco teaches you that early. So, that, and then just the fact that how we support Greco, we want guys to know at Michigan State that we're wrestling coaches. We're not folk style wrestling coaches. We're not freestyle wrestling coaches. We're not Greco. We're wrestling coaches. So we support all styles of wrestling. And if a kid, that we recruit, or a kid that comes on our team is, has a deep Greco background, of course we're gonna help him pursue that while he's at Michigan State. We're gonna give him opportunities to evolve and grow in that. We're not just folk style wrestling coaches. We are wrestling coaches. So we're going to support all styles of wrestling and try to help our kids, achieve their goals.
All right, Nate, and same question to you.
Yeah, I mean, for us, just like Sean and Chris said, I think in order to be good at folk style wrestling or be great at folk style wrestling, you got to be well versed in all three styles. I think for us at Stanford, to be able to hand fight, we gotta get better at that if we want to wrestle against, guys in the Big Ten, because, you watch that in their style. I think also too, for our program, any type of publicity is good publicity, as far as, qualifying for world teams or, placing at the nationals. Ryan Mango, Tyler Ishins, they've had a big history of Greco wrestlers wrestling there. So I think that is something that Jason believes in, and Ray, and Ray coaches national teams in the summer with Team Illinois, and they're always successful at Greco. So I think just the buy-in from the coaching staff, and then showing our guys, hey, you can be successful at this too, and then putting guys on world teams. I mean, that helps. It helps recruiting. But I just think it's awesome, and I hope in the future that more colleges like, Michigan and Michigan State and Stanford and buy into it, because I think we can be really good in the world if more colleges at the Division I level, or really any level, buy into it.
Yeah. So going along with that, again, primary focus of college wrestling is folk style. Most of the regional training centers are freestyle centric. How do you guys make sure that your athletes that are interested in pursuing Greco have the opportunities to wrestle Greco and improve on their skill set?
I'll go ahead. So what we do at Michigan State in the off season is we just, the off season is pretty long. So you get done wrestling in March, and if you don't wrestle any freestyle and Greco tournaments, you don't wrestle again until November. So we have a club, and we have, club practices, 2 to 3 days a week that, is highly encouraged that our guys on our team attend. And we do a mix of freestyle and folk style, or freestyle and Greco. So we do a mix of freestyle and Greco during that time. And we got guys that have never wrestled Greco before, but we make them wrestle in Greco positions and situations. One, we believe it's something fresh in the off season. I mean, folk style is a grind. It's a grind, and getting off bottom can be tough for some of our younger guys. So once the folk style season's over, we think it's good, and we think it's positive and refreshing to have our guys wrestle, or at least even if it's just in the practice room, drilling and wrestling freestyle and Greco. So we try to make a pretty good mix in those practices and those club practices of freestyle and Greco. It might be more heavily freestyle still, but we do drill and wrestle Greco, quite a bit in those practices. And then on top of that, we have guys that have goals of making a junior Greco world team. We have those guys in our room, and And then we have guys that are trying to make, senior Greco world teams. So we do have, a few of those guys that, are pretty high level Greco guys. And what they'll do is they'll start training with guys on their team that have really never competed in Greco. And they'll use those guys as workout partners, and they become pretty good at Greco just by training with those guys. And we've had a couple guys over the years that never wrestled Greco until they got to college, and then they started wrestling Greco, at some like university nationals or the U.S. Open, junior U.S. Open or whatever, and they have some success. And having success builds confidence. And at the end of the day, whether you're having success in Greco, freestyle, or folk style, that builds confidence, and it makes you a well-rounded wrestler. So that's how we incorporate Greco in our training.
Sean or Nate, anything to add to that, or anything your programs do specifically?
I would say similar. We do a lot of positional wrestling, situational wrestling, position wrestling in the spring, summer. A lot of our guys are on a freestyle track. We have Adam in the room constantly. Lately he's been doing, this past year he's been solely focusing on Greco, but prior to that he was doing, freestyle and Greco. So we were always in a position to prepare him for both styles. That was a little bit challenging, bouncing his practices around, especially that one year leading up to Final X where he was competing in both styles the same weekend. We were doing morning, Greco practices, afternoon freestyle. I mean, really mixing it up. There's a lot of similarities, but at heavyweight it can be even more specific. So I would say the last 2 years since we brought in Sergey Beloglazov as our head RTC coach, if you go back and watch him wrestle, he had a tremendous balance between leg attack skills and upper body skills. I mean, really like unbelievable, attacking from both upper body and lower body. So he's brought in a lot of good technique and drills, and he puts the guys in a lot of upper body situations, whether they're our freestyle guys or our Greco guys. So, we definitely incorporate both into the practices. And, at the end of the day, from an NCAA standpoint, we want guys that know how to compete and know what the process looks like to improve and know how to win championships. And whether they're scoring from upper body or scoring from leg attacks, as long as they're developing a style where they can score points and put themselves in positions to win, we want to help develop either path, to whatever their strengths are.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think just getting our guys to understand upper body wrestling, like I said before, if they're going to compete in it or not, it's totally up to them. But guys like Tyler Ishins that made a junior world team, Hayden Maley took third at the U.S. Open last year. Guys like that we can get involved in Greco more and more, especially once they graduate. I think it's just going to help Greco in general keep growing in the United States and getting better. Adam Kuhn's a perfect example. Peyton Omania, Cam Caffey. Cam was maybe 10 seconds away from making the bronze medal match at Junior Worlds. And he's a guy that I think you can look at that just to him wrestling is wrestling. And I don't mean to speak about Chris as a wrestler. He knows him a lot better than I do, but just from, being a fan of Cam's is he enjoys wrestling and it doesn't matter what style, and he's going to put up a lot of points. And I think that's what makes him really good during the folk style season. Same thing with Tyler Ishins. He wrestled AC Headley right after UNC had just wrestled Michigan, and AC had a big win, and they went upper body and Tyler won the match just, solely off of upper body. So I just think it helps our wrestlers out so much.
Sean, when Adam was coming into college, he had a lot of success in both freestyle. He was a cadet world champion, and Greco. I think he was a junior bronze medalist in Greco. Was it known that he was going to want to pursue both styles, and that he, did want to invest his time into Greco-Roman as well?
Yeah, I knew, Adam loves to compete. It doesn't matter what style. Adam loves to compete. He loves to challenge himself. I think that in 2016, when they had the nationals in December, that was a year where he still competed during the college season, and that's when I really realized how much he loved to compete and how much he was willing to challenge himself, because he was doing the college season, freestyle, Greco, all of it, leading up through December, and then that second half of the year with the trials. But he, early on, it was, there were conversations, and I wasn't gonna try to steer him away from his goals and the dreams he had in both styles. And he truly enjoys both of them, and I think he could be great. I mean, he's obviously really good in both styles. I think he could win medals in either style. The thing I always tried to do was help him lay out, a schedule and a way to approach the training and being able to compete and continue to excel, as he got into the senior level, and gotten to the point where he's trying to make a world team in freestyle and a world team in Greco, because it starts to get very challenging logistically for your training, and specific to opponents, and this past year, I think he realized he wanted to really just put all his focus in the Greco, and that made it, a little easier in terms of just getting partners. We knew he was going to have to be overseas a little more, work close with Matt and the staff in terms of his scheduling. We brought in foreign guys for him here in Ann Arbor to train with. But it's a different schedule because you're overseas a little more, competing in the training camps, than necessarily the freestyle guys are. As a coach, I'm constantly trying to learn. So I enjoyed spending time with the Greco staff and being around the athletes and the coaches and just trying to sponge up things that I could learn. Because like I said, my expertise and a lot of the details for me are more freestyle based, but I've learned a lot. And anything with Adam, we've had practices actually where we've been working on stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm not sure about this position. Let's figure it out. And we'd work with it. And then, we've even, I'm really good friends with Ivan Ivanov. I've gotten Ivan on, on FaceTime when we're actually working on stuff in the mat room with Ivan on FaceTime, and he's got a guy in the room and we're working on a position. And but I love learning the sport, and they're like, figuring out solutions for all these different areas, so it's been fun, working on all these different styles with Adam. I'd say for me, scheduling for him has been one of the biggest challenges, just trying to map that out for him. But I've always been supportive of him doing everything he wants to do as an athlete, and I think that's the most important thing.
Thanks, Sean. Chris, so Peyton Omania brought home a junior world bronze medal. It's a big deal, for USA Wrestling, for everybody involved. But what specifically did that mean for the Michigan State program to have one of your red shirts compete and succeed on the world stage like that?
Well, obviously it's, it's awesome for Peyton, but it's also awesome for, Michigan State University, because, it shows that we, support all styles of wrestling, and it shows that, like, we've had other kids reach out to us knowing that Peyton's at Michigan State that, are interested in Michigan State, because they see that, we support, Greco-Roman wrestling. But it means a lot. I mean, as far as, winning a medal at any age group level, for USA Wrestling is awesome for USA Wrestling, right? So, and the junior level is very competitive. And we, Nate was, I believe, the head coach of the junior team this past year, and they had a great performance, like the team overall. Like Nate said, Cam Caffey was 10 seconds away for wrestling for a medal also. But yeah, it's great publicity for the university. It's great for our program. Peyton's an awesome kid, loves to compete. He's extremely talented in Greco-Roman wrestling. He's dangerous when you go upper body with him. And we, as a red shirt a couple of years ago, and he took his first red shirt, I saw him wrestle at a few open tournaments, and he's not afraid to throw and folk style, which is really exciting, because a lot of guys, they'll hand fight hard, but he actually throws. He actually goes upper body, and he'll go belly to belly. He'll hit headlocks. He'll hit duck unders. So we're excited. We're excited for Peyton, to be a part of our lineup. But we're obviously gonna help him pursue his Greco-Roman goals and help him elevate himself as much as we can.
So one of the top wrestlers in your program, Cameron Caffey, who was on the junior world team, Rayvon Foley, who's an All-American and redshirted this season. But they're competing in Greco and freestyle in the off season. Is it any surprise to you, or, you know, do you think there's a direct correlation between the guys that are doing the international styles and then coming back to the mat during the college season and having folk style success?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Cam Caffey, I don't know what his best style is. He is very versatile, and he loves wrestling. He loves wrestling out of all different types of positions. So I can't say which is his best style. I don't really know. He's a competitor. He loves to compete, and he goes hard in the room. He practices hard, you know, and he loves wrestling. So I don't know what his best style is. I don't know, but those other guys, I just think, you know, the more you can wrestle in different positions, the better you're going to become. So we're not trying to make, you know, just better freestyle or Greco or folk style wrestlers. We're trying to make them better wrestlers. We're just trying to make them better wrestlers. And so the more well-rounded you are, I think the greater amount of success you can have. And, you know, that's a testament to those guys for, you know, for putting it on the line and wanting to compete in the off season and not caring if it's Greco or freestyle. They just love to compete. And we have other guys in our room that have won Fargo titles in Greco, that younger guys that you know, just haven't seen yet. But we have, you know, a handful of other guys in our room that have had Greco-Roman success too. So
Awesome. Nate, so last week you got named USA Wrestling's Greco-Roman Coach of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news, and what did it mean to you, and what do you think it means for the California RTC and the Stanford program?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was really honored, because if you look at the list of the people that have come before that are some big names, you know, in coaching and in their or, you know, when they were competing. So, I mean, just honored. You know, I probably got to thank my wife a million times, because for her to allow me to travel as much as I did over the last year was crazy. But also, you know, Jason, Ray and Alex, and then Matt and Gary for allowing me to, you know, just kind of help any way I can to improve Greco. I think, like, over the last year with the junior world team, you know, we went overseas. We took half the team to Finland and did a training camp and had, like, I think 6 dual matches with 5 other foreign teams. And that type of stuff, I mean, was really big. But I think, you know, for our RTC, it just shows that we care about, you know, all the different styles that guys can come and be successful at anything that they want to be successful at, as long as they have that mindset and, you know, want to work hard. They can come here, they can be successful and win world medals, you know, if that's what they choose to do. But I don't know. Yeah, it's really neat to win the award. I think there's a lot of coaches that, excuse me, deserve a piece of that award, because it wasn't just me. You know, like, everybody had something. Excuse me, I don't know why my voice is. Let me get a support. I just think that, you know, there's a lot of people that deserve that award and helped me along the way. It wasn't just one thing that I did. I mean, Chris was, you know, in Estonia with me. You know, Gary and I talk probably every other day. Matt, just a lot of people. So, you know, even Coach Heffernan at Illinois let, you know, one of his wrestlers go overseas for 10 days with me for, you know, so it was just a great year.
Can you talk a little bit about that Junior World Championships? It was a historic tournament for USA Wrestling. We brought home 3 medals, Austin Nutter, Peyton Omanya, and Colton Schultz. What was it like coaching that, and what was the atmosphere like after the tournament was over?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was incredible. We had really close-knit group of guys. It started in the camp in Colorado. Everybody became really close, and I've gotten to know a lot of the guys over the last few years. I mean, whether I was, you know, helping recruit them or just at different camps. I mean, I've known Colton since he was in middle school when I was training in Colorado. Peyton, I've known for a long time. So I think number one is like the biggest thing is we wanted to create a culture during the short training camp of just like, we're going to work hard. We're going to go there and, we're going to make sure that they take us serious. But I think going into the tournament, everybody was really confident. I mean, Peyton, I'd made a few teams before that. Colton Schultz was a returning medalist. Nutter, I remember the year before we had a conversation. I think he went 0-1 or 0-2. And after the tournament, he was really like upset. And I just told him, make sure you remember that feeling. So when you make your next world team, you can go out there, you can win a world medal, and you can leave that place a little differently. And I think, Chris mentioned this earlier. I think almost everybody except for one person won a match. And I think that was a step in the right direction. The year before was, not very good. And I think in Estonia, everybody started feeding off of everybody from Peyton, going out and beating, almost, I'd say in like half of his matches, he was losing and he'd come back and win. Same thing with Nutter. I mean, Nutter was down big in the bronze medal match, came back and won the match. So I think just in general, it was like we were coaching a college team. Like the guys were all brothers and they were congratulating each other and getting everybody pumped up before they went out there. So I think leaving there was a lot better feeling than the year before. And I think a lot of foreign coaches saw that, we're getting a lot better and they got to take us serious. So I think it was just incredible to have that type of a year. And it shows a lot what Matt and Gary are doing at the top level. And then guys like Sean and Chris and everybody else, that are buying into it and giving their guys opportunities to succeed.
Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just what Nate said. I mean, those guys, a lot of those guys know each other very well, the guys that were on the team. And there was a lot of support. And that was really cool to see. So it wasn't like, oh, he wrestles for that school, he wrestles for that. There was a lot of Team USA support in the stands and people, really, cheering each other on. And then in the warm-up area after they would win, it was like, it was cool how just to be a part of that experience, watch all the wrestlers, support each other. And, that was a really cool experience. It was fun. And, I think it just shows where the direction that, USA Wrestling is headed in Greco. I think we have all the resources here. We have all the resources. We have great coaches. There's no reason why we can't be very successful in Greco-Roman at the world level.
Last season, in the NCAA season, a lot of wrestlers took Olympic red shirts. Michigan specifically had a lot of wrestlers taking red shirts in freestyle. And I know Michigan State had Omanya took one too. Sean, could you kind of speak to how beneficial that is for the athlete and also how beneficial it can be for your program?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when you're looking at these things and evaluating, you want the guy's international success and collegiate success to line up, and for us, we had some unique situations. We had two guys already qualify for the Olympics and earn allocations and spots to wrestle in Tokyo. With the new format of the ranking series, two out of the three ranking series events were during the college season. And one of our athletes is competing internationally a weight class below his college weight. So a lot of those circumstances, as we were evaluating it, we wanted to do the right thing, for our athletes, and their goals and dreams first and foremost. USA Wrestling's one of their, nationals got moved to December, so we wanted to keep Logan Massa in the same timeline as Stevan and Miles Samin. And it made a lot of sense so that he could focus on freestyle and get ready for the U.S. Nationals in December. But ultimately, as a college coach, my job is to put Michigan in the best position as a college program. And like I said, ideally you want, the decisions you have to make as a college coach, hopefully line up for their individual success collegiately and internationally, and finding a way to make that work. It takes a lot of planning. We had to make a lot of changes within our program this past year, with scholarship allocations. I mean, there's a lot of different things that it starts to impact. So you gotta, evaluate all those things. And at the end of the day, ideally you want the decisions you're making for those specific athletes to also benefit your college program going forward. And we definitely felt like that was going to be, a really good exchange for our program this year. Obviously, we're recruiting guys that want to win NCAA championships and also, want to win gold medals. And, the more they can compete and go through the process of development and improvement, and you keep that fire stoked on those big goals and competing on a big stage, I think it generates a lot of excitement within your own team. Like when these guys were competing overseas this year and Logan winning the U.S. Open, all that excitement and enthusiasm, that all trickled down into our younger guys in the college program, who have similar aspirations. It was same thing coming off the summer when, Mason Paris had a great summer of freestyle. It was really his first full year of wrestling year round. And, and he won the Junior Worlds coming back. That ignited our whole team, the excitement for competing on the world stage. So, I think all these things can be a positive. It's just a matter of, you still got to get them and always line up, as a college coach so that you're putting your college program in the best position possible.
Yeah. What do you think it says about the direction that wrestling is trending in, that we have, athletes that are still competing in college, trying to make Olympic teams, as opposed to, focusing on folk style for 4 or 5 years and then making the transition to the international styles and trying to make teams? Anyone can take that question.
I think it personally says a lot about the development of where we've come as a country. Like we have these RTCs and the training camps that they provide in Colorado Springs, that these kids are maybe as cadets and juniors already like training with senior level guys, and so they're prepared to compete at the world level when they're younger now than they used to be. So I think that's what it's saying, is that our guys are ready to make senior world teams at a younger age now, and that has a lot of the change that's taken place with the RTCs and the training camps that go on in Colorado Springs now, where they're bringing all the age groups together. So our guys are younger at an earlier age.
Does anyone have anything to add to that one?
I mean, I would just say, along with the RTCs, just in the last 20 years, the shift we've had of, elite college and elite, senior level wrestlers, opening up wrestling schools and wrestling clubs around the country, where they're working with so many young kids at an earlier age and exposing them to, to that mindset and planting those seeds so much earlier, and the kids are getting more training, more matches at a younger age. They have exposure to so much on the internet in terms of watching high level wrestling. I mean, I didn't see an international wrestling match until 88 when the Olympics were on TV. Like I was like, wow, look at these guys. I mean, it was a big deal. I remember watching all the guys in 88, and these kids are seeing this stuff so early now with the internet that I think all that stuff just kind of culminating, and our sport growing and the popularity and the fan base. I mean, it's all that stuff's really, culminating into the success we're having and these guys are having at an earlier age.
Nate, I think I'm going to throw this one to you. Some coaches and athletes, and I'm talking more so pre-college athletes, might not think it's worth it to invest their time and their training in Greco. Rather they'd want to focus on folk and free. What would you say to maybe a coach or an athlete that has that mentality?
I mean, I would tell them, Dan Gable said it a long time ago, wrestling's wrestling, right? But I think too, I think that the coaches themselves need to get out, whether it's to, a place like the Concord Youth Center, or different places that specialize in Greco, or go to a camp that Mayab's running or Linland's running, and truly understand Greco. Because I think that that's a big problem, is a lot of coaches don't understand how to coach Greco. So they don't realize how easy it truly is, I think, to learn it. And they just want to stick to what they know. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone. And if anything's taught us in wrestling, that's the complete opposite. You want to get out of your comfort zone. So I would just tell these other coaches that don't understand it or maybe don't think that their wrestlers should do it is like, hey, go out, learn it, and bring it back and teach it to your wrestlers, because, you know, you can teach them hand fighting, positioning, 2-on-1s, underhooks, all that stuff that, you know, Chris said this earlier, that wrestling that you need to know in freestyle and folk style. So I would just challenge those coaches that if they want to become better coaches, is to get out there to learn it, bring it back. And then once they see their wrestlers having success, and to when those younger kids that start learning it have success, you know, because I think when you're a younger wrestler and you're not having success, it's really difficult to maybe even stick with wrestling, or, you know, you start second guessing yourself. But if Greco can ignite your success in wrestling, I mean, the sky's the limit. And I think we would get more and more wrestlers being involved in Greco, you know, as they get older and into college.
Okay. Last question. I think we'll go Chris, then Sean, then Nate on this one. But what do we need to do to ensure that Greco-Roman keeps trending in the right direction in the U.S.?
You know, I would never tell any coach how to run their program. That's not what I do. I can only speak for what, you know, we do, and my philosophy and our belief, and that's just to, you know, wrestling is wrestling. And I would just, if you have athletes that want to wrestle Greco, that want to wrestle freestyle, I think you just support that, you know, and then you help them as much as you can. You help evolve them as much as you can. You know, obviously, I think that what USA Wrestling has done by combining age groups and having, you know, training camps, you know, for different ages, I think that's helped out a lot. USA Wrestling is, you know, sending cadets to world, sending juniors to world, and that is obviously going to help us keep developing, which is important. Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for what we do. We support all styles of wrestling at Michigan State. I support all styles of wrestling. And we let the kids, we don't try to steer them. We don't try to make anybody wrestle a style. But we definitely support them, and we want to help them achieve their goals.
Sean, you're muted.
Sorry, guys. I think, you know, continuing to partner, you know, I've seen a lot of, like, you know, effort to partner with youth clubs and coaches and go around with satellite clinics and have the national staff, you know, going around the country. I think continue to hit the youth levels is really important, in the youth club coaches. I think, you know, that makes a huge difference. You know, after spending, you know, a lot of time doing that, you know, before I was back here in Michigan, I know that had a huge impact in Illinois. You know, when I got back there and we started to really ramp up the freestyle, and then, you know, Mike Powell and Brian Medlin started to really ramp up the Greco, and we had kids doing both styles really well. And there was a huge sense of pride in our state of Illinois, you know, freestyle and Greco. You know, it was pretty equal. You know, by the time I left and came back to Michigan, I mean, it was very equal. And a lot of the kids were doubling, you know, guys like you know, Ellis Coleman, you know, Lila Sean Coleman, Max Nowry, the Dardanes. I mean, these guys were all, like, you know, they were all excited, and they were equally invested in all styles of wrestling. And, you know, a lot of that started just with the mindset and the approach when they were younger. You know, I think continuing to develop a schedule that warrants guys competing both styles a little more when they're younger is beneficial. And I think there's been some effort to kind of analyze that, you know, just even with senior level guys trying to make teams. You know, so sometimes it's scheduling, you know, trying to figure out how to, you know, open up a schedule so that a guy could do both styles, you know, up to a certain point, age group wise. So, but there's definitely, the resources are definitely there.
Yeah, I agree with what Sean and Chris both mentioned. I think one thing that Coach Medlin and I talked about at Junior Worlds is trying to get a camp set up, whether, you know, it's at a university in the Midwest, just so it's easy, you know, for guys to fly into. But send out an email, you know, get with Gary and Matt, and I've talked to them as well. And obviously the summer's kind of dampened a lot of our summer plans, but get a camp, a Greco camp specifically. Send out an email to every Division I, Division II, Division III school. Hey, here's the camp cost. It's cheap, you know, just basically room, board, and and that's it. And then get them back involved. And then these kids that had success at Fargo or, UWW cadets when they were younger, is they fall back in love with Greco. And then also on top of that, invite coaches, whether it's a John Smith or whomever, college coaches, and invite them out and see and have them help with the camp. And I think we can grow it even more and get guys to stick around more in the summertime to wrestle Greco. And also when they graduate, to go into that pipeline of making senior world teams and Olympic teams. And so I don't know, that's a big goal of mine over the next year, is to try to get together with a bunch of coaches and get something like that going, because I think sometimes they get lost in the shuffle. They go to college and they're wrestling folk style, and, it's a huge grind and they're tired by the end of the year and they just kind of want to break. But if they can get away to a different style, maybe we can reignite that flame and keep growing.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for your time. I appreciate you coming on Moments Off the Mat. It's exciting to see your program succeeding, and I look forward to, more success from you guys. So hats off to everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Until next time.
All right.